We are back with a Fox News alert for you. Authorities now conducting a lone wolf investigation into the suspected Afghan immigrant Ahmad Rahami.
Now, his repeated trips to terror hotspots now raising serious questions about who he's connected to. But is it too early to tell? Let's get a reaction from Professor Mauro. He's a national security analyst with the Clarion Project. Ryan, good to see you this morning.
Good to see you.
So, lone wolf, what does that even mean? If he spent all this time in Pakistan, he has all these bombs that they find in his home. Presumably, he got help from somewhere. You don't just learn how to make bombs by yourself.
Right, I mean, here we go again. I mean, this is just kind of the reflexive answer when people have questions. They say, how this happened? You say lone wolf, and that's just the answer people go to because it's easy. But in the vast majority of cases, when you hear about a lone wolf, we later find out that that's not really the case. They usually either had someone helping them or at the very least, someone radicalizing them. And just right off the bat, when you look at the family's history, the older brother who attacked a cop because of a dispute over the restaurant that they were running and then went to Afghanistan after his arrest, that to me just seemed to fit the pattern of a possible Islamist, and so that's not a formal accusation, but if I'm looking at patterns, that's where I'm going to start my research.
Yeah, so those are at least two red flags, you know, traveling back and forth himself between Afghanistan and Pakistan, his brother, as you just mentioned, fleeing to Afghanistan, but also he attended this mosque in New Jersey, the Community of New Jersey Mosque, and that has been under the radar as well. So should we be taking a closer look at that?
Yes, I mean, one of the fundamental problems we've had with our strategy is that we focus too much on a specific group or a specific tactic like suicide bombing and not the broader Islamist ideology. And so the mosque in New Jersey that a family friend of the bomber says he attended has a link to a group called the Islamic Circle of North America. Now, they condemn ISIS. They don't support ISIS. But if you look at things like their teaching guide, which I have a copy of, what you see are commands to pursue the construction of a caliphate, promoting theocracy, talk about jihad. And so even if you condemn ISIS, if you're teaching Muslims that they're supposed to pursue an Islamic State, don't be surprised when they join a group named the Islamic State.
Right, it's not a surprise. I want to talk about, you mentioned patterns, Ryan, looking at these patterns and trying to put together all these pieces. This type of thing wasn't supposed to happen. Bombs being built sort of right underneath the eyes of these, neighbors. He wasn't on any kind of list. I mean, he spends all this time in Pakistan, he's over in Afghanistan, and yet we didn't know?
Well, if you're focusing just on the last stage of the radicalization process, when you start putting together a bomb or you start trying to attend a terrorist camp, those are the type of things that are very difficult to detect there at that very last moment. But if your strategy is based around combating Islamism, not Islam, not Muslims as a whole, but the Islamist ideology, people that are pursuing an Islamic State, the Caliphate, or things like that, then organizations linked to the Muslim Brotherhood, for example, or people that adopt those type of extreme beliefs fit into that standard for surveillance and further research.
So should they be under surveillance? Would that have allowed this to not have gotten to this point?
Potentially. I don't know if the resources exist to conduct surveillance on every single Islamist in the United States, because it just, even having surveillance on the suspects right now is a problem for the federal government, but it definitely can be an indication of where to look further so that you can judge whether further surveillance is necessary.
Now, what about the family? When authorities are looking at these guys, they're saying there's no evidence yet that he received any military training. Friends said that he became noticeably devout. When you look at the family, and it seemed like the father was sort of surprised by the whole thing.
Well, the information that we're getting now isn't surprising, because normally these people that you hear are being called lone wolves, what you find out is that they were radicalized by a close friend or a family member. So hearing about his brother being in Afghanistan, now you hear about the bomber taking trips to Afghanistan and Pakistan reportedly. All of this makes sense. It fits the consistent pattern that we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so familiar just from the Orlando terrorist attack that we just heard about.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, great to see you bright and early with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Nice to see you.
Thanks,
Thank you.